Kate Miller walked into the biggest room she had ever seen. The walls stretched so high that she could not see the top. Thousands of alien creatures sat in rows that went up and up like a giant stadium. Their eyes, tentacles, and strange body parts all turned to look at her. She wore a simple blue suit and carried a small brown folder. Her black shoes clicked on the shiny floor as she walked to the center of the room. The sound echoed in the silence. The creatures looked angry. Some had sharp teeth, others had glowing eyes. A few had skin that changed colors. But Kate was not afraid. She had dealt with angry people before when she worked for the government. A tall crystal being stood up. It was 20 feet high and looked like a giant diamond with arms and legs. When it spoke, its voice sounded like breaking glass. "Human Kate Miller," the crystal being said. "I am Chancellor Zex of the Zephyrian people. You stand before the Galactic Council today to answer serious questions." Kate nodded and placed her folder on the small table in front of her. "I understand, Chancellor Zex." 3 years ago, the Chancellor continued, your people were weak. Your planet Earth had no power in this galaxy. The mighty Carathian Empire ruled over 10,000 worlds. They had ships bigger than your cities. They had weapons that could destroy planets. Many aliens in the crowd made sounds of agreement. Some clicked their claws, others buzzed their wings. Yet somehow, Chancellor Zex said, your weak human race brought down this great empire. The Carathians now work for you. Their emperor follows your orders. Their mighty fleets carry your mail across the stars. The crowd of aliens became louder. They seemed confused and upset. "Tell us, human," the Chancellor demanded. "How did you defeat them? What terrible weapons did you use? What secret technology did you discover? Did you poison them? Did you use mind control?" Kate smiled a small smile. She opened her brown folder and took out a single piece of paper. It was white with black words typed on it. Nothing special about it at all. "We use this," she said, holding up the paper. The aliens became quiet. They leaned forward to look at the paper. Many of them had special eyes that could see very far distances. They stared at the simple white sheet. "What is it?" asked a purple alien with 6 arms. "Is it a weapon blueprint? A secret code?" "It is Form XG2847, Kate replied calmly. "Application for planetary subjugation permit." The aliens looked at each other. They made confused sounds. Some scratched their heads or whatever they had instead of heads. Chancellor Zex's crystal body flashed with bright light. "Explain yourself, human. What is this form? What does it do?" Kate had been waiting for this question for 3 years. She had practiced her answer many times in front of a mirror in her small apartment back on Earth. "When the Carathian Empire came to Earth," she began, "they expected us to be scared. They thought we would cry and beg for mercy. They brought their biggest ships and strongest weapons to make us surrender." She paused and looked around the room. Every alien was listening, carefully. "But we did not surrender," Kate continued. "We did what humans always do when someone wants something from us. We asked them to fill out the proper paperwork." A green alien with many eyes spoke up. "Paperwork? What is this paperwork?" Kate smiled again. "Forms, documents, applications, rules and procedures that must be followed. On Earth, if you want to do anything official, you must fill out forms and follow the correct process." "But they had weapons," protested a robot-like alien. "They could have simply taken your planet by force." "Yes, they could have," Kate agreed. "But they made one big mistake. They tried to be legal about it. When we handed them the form and told them it was required by Earth law, they decided to follow our rules instead of just shooting." The Chancellor's crystal body grew darker. "You are saying they filled out your form?" "They tried to," Kate said. "But that was just the beginning. You see, Form XG2847 was not designed to be easy. It was designed by the smartest people on Earth who spent their lives making forms that are impossible to complete correctly." She took another paper from her folder. This one had very small writing and many blank spaces. "This form asks for things like proof of legal authority to conquer planets. It requires environmental impact studies. It demands historical records going back 1,000 years. It needs signatures from 17 different Earth departments. The aliens started to understand. Some began to look worried. And here's the clever part, Kate said, her voice getting stronger. Every question on this form leads to other forms. When they answered question 5, they needed to fill out forms B442 and C1156. When they completed those forms, they discovered they needed 12 more forms. A small blue alien raised what looked like a tentacle. How many forms were there in total? Kate opened her folder wider. Inside were hundreds of papers, all neatly organized. The final count was 4,736 different forms. Each form had to be filled out perfectly with no mistakes. Each form had to be approved by different departments. Each department had different working hours and different rules. The room became very quiet. Even the aliens who had been making noise stopped moving. The Carathian Empire, Kate continued, spent 3 years trying to fill out our forms. They hired thousands of their smartest people to work on the paperwork. They built special buildings just to store all the documents. They created new jobs for form-filling specialists. She pulled out a photograph and held it up. It showed huge alien spaceships parked around Earth's moon. But instead of weapons, the ships were carrying boxes and boxes of papers. Their entire invasion force became a paperwork delivery service, Kate explained. They were so busy filling out forms that they forgot about conquering us. Meanwhile, their empire back home started falling apart because all their best people were busy doing paperwork for Earth. Chancellor Zex made a sound like breaking glass mixed with a groan. This is impossible. No civilization would fall for such a simple trick. Kate's smile became bigger. That is what makes humans special, Chancellor. We have been dealing with complicated paperwork for thousands of years. We know how to make it so confusing that even smart people give up. We also know how to make people think they have to follow the rules, even when they could just ignore them. She closed her folder and looked around the room at all the worried alien faces. The Carathian Empire could have destroyed Earth on the first day, she said, but they wanted to be proper and legal about it. Once they agreed to follow our paperwork process, they were trapped. And humans are very, very good at trapping people with paperwork. The room erupted in noise as thousands of aliens began talking at once. Some seemed scared. Others seemed impressed. A few seemed angry. But Kate Miller just stood there smiling, holding her simple brown folder that had brought down the greatest empire in the galaxy. Kate Miller looked at the thousands of alien faces watching her. She opened her folder again and took out another paper. This one had a picture of a big spaceship on it. Let me tell you exactly how it all started, she said. 3 years ago, the Carathian Empire sent their strongest war commander to Earth. His name was Vextar, and he was 8 feet tall with red skin and sharp claws. He had destroyed 100 planets before coming to us. The aliens in the room leaned forward to listen. Some of them remembered Commander Vextar. He was famous for being mean and powerful. Vextar came to our space station above Earth, Kate continued. He wore his best war armor and brought his fiercest soldiers. He expected our leaders to fall down and beg for mercy when they saw him. She held up the picture of the spaceship. His ship was so big it blocked out the sun. It had enough weapons to turn our entire planet into dust. But when he stepped off his ship, he did not meet any scared humans begging for their lives. Kate smiled as she remembered what happened next. Instead, he met Daniel Brooks. Daniel was a short, fat man with thick glasses who worked for our government his whole life. Daniel wore a cheap gray suit and carried a clipboard with papers attached to it. Some aliens made confused sounds. A clipboard did not sound like a weapon. Daniel walked up to this giant, scary alien warrior and said, "Hello, Commander Vextar. Welcome to Earth. I am Daniel Brooks, Director of Alien Relations. I understand you wish to conquer our planet today." Kate acted out what Daniel had done, holding up her hand as if holding a clipboard. Vextar was so surprised that a tiny human was not afraid of him. He growled and said, "Yes, weak human. I have come to accept your surrender. Give up now and your deaths will be quick." The room was very quiet. Everyone wanted to know what happened next. Daniel smiled and said, "That sounds wonderful, Commander. We would be happy to discuss surrender with you. However, all planetary conquests must follow proper Earth procedures. Could you please fill out this form first? Kate held up a copy of the same form she had shown before. Daniel handed Vextar Form XG2847 and a pen. He explained that Earth law required all government takeovers to be done correctly with the right paperwork. A robot alien raised its metal arm. But Commander Vextar could have just killed this Daniel Brooks and taken the planet anyway. Yes, he could have, Kate agreed. But here is what made our plan work. Vextar was not stupid. He knew that if he just destroyed Earth without following any rules, other planets in the galaxy might not respect his conquest. He wanted his victory to be legal and proper. She pulled out another paper. This one had Vextar's signature at the bottom. So Vextar took the form. He looked at it and saw that it was only 2 pages long. He thought it would be easy to fill out. He told Daniel, "Fine, human. I will complete your silly paperwork. But when I am done, your planet belongs to the Carathian Empire." Kate's smile grew bigger. Daniel was very polite, he said. "Of course, Commander. Take all the time you need. The form must be filled out completely and correctly. If you make any mistakes, you will need to start over with a new form." She took out a photograph of Earth. In the picture, people in government buildings were working at desks covered with papers. While Vextar went back to his ship to fill out the form, something very important was happening on Earth. Our smartest government workers were creating the most complicated paperwork system ever made. Kate pointed to different people in the photograph. Helen Roberts was our Attorney General. She was the best lawyer on Earth. She spent 2 days writing new laws that said all alien invasions had to follow Earth rules. She made sure every single word was exactly right. She pointed to another person in the picture. Carl Johnson used to work for our tax department. His job was making tax forms so hard that people needed help to fill them out. We put him in charge of making alien conquest forms even more difficult than tax forms. The aliens looked scared when they heard this. Many planets in the galaxy had heard terrible stories about Earth tax forms. Dr. Lisa Morgan was our smartest administrator. She designed a system where every form led to more forms. When you finished one form, you discovered you needed 3 more forms to support it. Kate took out a large chart covered with arrows and boxes. "Look at this," she said, holding up the chart. "This shows how our forms connected to each other. Form XG2847 required supporting documents from Forms B442, C1156, and D2200. But Form B442 could not be completed without first finishing Forms E5500 and F6633. The chart looked like a spider web made of paperwork. Every form connected to several other forms. We also created special departments to handle the forms," Kate continued. The Department of Interstellar Compliance was managed by Frank Davis. Frank had worked for the government for 30 years. He knew exactly how to make simple things impossibly complicated. She showed them another picture. This one showed a building with many floors and hundreds of offices. Each department had different rules. Some were only open on certain days. Others required appointments that had to be made weeks in advance. A few departments would only accept forms written in blue ink, while others demanded black ink. The aliens were starting to understand how clever the human plan was. Meanwhile, Kate said, Commander Vextar was on his ship trying to fill out what he thought was a simple 2-page form. But every question on the form was designed to be confusing. She read from the form in her hand. Question 3 asked, "Please provide legal documentation proving your authority to conquer planets." Question 7 wanted, "Complete historical records of your empire for the past 1,000 years, translated into all 17 official Earth languages." A purple alien with many eyes spoke up. 17 languages? How many languages does Earth have? "We have thousands of languages," Kate replied. "But we picked 17 languages that are very different from each other. Some are written left to right, others are written right to left. A few are written in circles." The aliens looked at each other nervously. Question 15 was my favorite, Kate continued. It asked for an environmental impact study showing how the conquest would affect Earth's wildlife. The form explained that this study had to be done by scientists approved by Earth's Department of Environmental Protection. She pulled out one more paper. This one was covered with Vextar's handwriting, but many words were crossed out and corrected. It took Vextar 3 days to fill out the form. He made 17 mistakes and had to start over twice. When he finally finished, he was very proud. He brought the completed form back to Daniel Brooks. Kate's eyes sparkled with joy as she remembered what happened next. Daniel looked at the form very carefully. He checked every word and every signature. Then he smiled and said, "Thank you, Commander Vextar. This form looks good. Now you just need to submit it to the proper departments for approval." The room became completely silent. Vextar asked, "What departments?" Daniel handed him a list of 47 different Earth government offices that needed to review and approve his conquest application. Kate held up the list. It was 3 pages long and written in very small letters. Each department had its own requirements and its own additional forms to fill out. Kate Miller pulled out a thick stack of papers from her folder. The papers were so many that they made a loud thump when she placed them on the table. The alien audience gasped at the size of the stack. "This," she said, patting the papers, "is what happened to Commander Vextar after he submitted his first form." She picked up the first paper from the stack. It had many red stamps and signatures on it. Vextar thought he was finished after filling out Form XG2847. He was very proud of himself. He had spent 3 days working on it and made no mistakes. Daniel Brooks took the form and told him to wait while the Earth departments reviewed it. Kate looked around the room at all the worried alien faces. Vextar waited on his big warship for 1 week. Then Daniel Brooks called him on the radio and said, "Commander, we have reviewed your application. Unfortunately, your form cannot be processed without the required supporting documents." She held up a list that was 2 pages long. Daniel told Vextar that he needed to fill out 17 additional forms before his conquest application could move forward. Each form had to be completed perfectly and submitted to different Earth departments. A green alien with tentacles raised 1 tentacle high. What kind of forms did he need? Kate smiled and read from the list. Form B442 was an environmental impact assessment. This form asked Vextar to explain how his invasion would affect Earth's air, water, plants, and animals. It required him to hire Earth scientists to study his weapons and write a report. The aliens looked confused. They had never heard of conquerors needing to worry about plants and animals. Form C1156 was a cultural sensitivity analysis. This form made Vextar prove that he understood Earth's different cultures and would respect them during the conquest. He had to write essays about human art, music, and food. Kate pulled out another paper. This one had pictures of different kinds of Earth food on it. Form D2200 was my personal favorite. It was called Historical Precedent Documentation. This form required Vextar to provide examples of other planets he had conquered legally, with proper paperwork from those planets' governments. The aliens began to understand how impossible this was becoming. But here is where our plan became truly brilliant. Kate continued. Dr. Lisa Morgan had designed the system so that completing each form revealed more forms that were needed. She took out a large chart covered with lines and arrows that connected different boxes. When Vextar filled out Form B442 about environmental impact, question 12 asked him what type of fuel his ships used. When he answered quantum plasma, the form automatically required him to fill out Form G9900 about hazardous quantum materials handling. Kate traced her finger along the lines on the chart. Form G9900 had 43 questions about quantum plasma safety. Question 15 asked about storage procedures. When Vextar described how his ships stored the fuel, he triggered the need for Form H1122 about interstellar hazardous waste management. The alien audience was starting to look dizzy from following all the connections. Each new form took Vextar longer to complete than the last one. Form G9900 required him to get his quantum plasma tested by Earth-approved laboratories. The testing took 2 weeks and cost him 50,000 Earth dollars. A robot alien made a beeping sound. He paid money to conquer Earth? Yes, Kate replied happily. Form H1122 required him to hire Earth environmental consultants to inspect his entire fleet. That cost him 200,000 Earth dollars and took another month. She pulled out a photograph showing Vextar's huge warship surrounded by small Earth inspection boats. Meanwhile, Vextar was having other problems. Frank Davis, who managed our Department of Corrections and Appeals, had created the most strict form-checking system in human history. Kate held up a form covered with red marks and corrections. Frank's department checked every single word on every form. If Vextar wrote his name as Vextar on one form and Vextar on another form, both forms were rejected for inconsistency. If he used blue ink instead of black ink, the form was rejected. If his signature was slightly different from one form to another, rejected. The aliens were beginning to look scared. Frank's team found mistakes that even Vextar did not know he was making. They rejected Form C1156 because Vextar wrote the date as 1503-2387 instead of 03-15-2387. They rejected Form D2200 because Vextar's handwriting was too messy in box number 26. Kate showed them another photograph. This one showed aliens working at desks covered with papers, looking very frustrated and tired. Every time a form was rejected, Vextar had to start over completely. He could not just fix the mistake. Earth. Rules required him to fill out a brand new form from the beginning. She picked up a thick folder from her stack. After 2 months, Vextar had filled out over 100 forms. But instead of being finished, he discovered he needed even more forms. His environmental impact assessment had revealed that his weapons might hurt Earth's endangered butterflies, so he needed Form K5577 about butterfly protection protocols. The aliens made sounds of disbelief. His cultural sensitivity analysis showed that he did not understand Earth's music well enough, so he needed Form L6688 about mandatory cultural education requirements. This form required him to take classes about human music, taught by Earth teachers for 6 weeks. Kate pulled out a picture of Commander Vexitar sitting in a small classroom chair, much too big for him, listening to a human teacher explain jazz music. The funniest part was Form M7799 about Conqueror licensing requirements. This form revealed that Earth law required all planetary conquerors to have a special license, just like a driver's license. To get the license, Vexitar had to pass written and practical tests. She showed them a picture of Vexitar taking a multiple-choice test while sitting at a tiny human desk. The practical test required him to demonstrate proper conquest techniques without actually hurting anyone. He had to practice conquering fake planets made of cardboard while Earth officials watched and graded his performance. By now, many aliens in the audience were holding their heads in their hands or whatever they used for hands. Meanwhile, Kate continued. Vextar's problems were getting worse. His warships were running out of supplies because they had been parked near Earth for so long. His soldiers were getting bored and homesick. Some of them asked for permission to visit Earth as tourists. She held up a tourism brochure with pictures of Earth's beaches and mountains. Earth's tourism department, managed by George Clark, was happy to help. But tourist visits required Form P1122 about temporary alien visitor permits. Each soldier needed medical checkups, background checks, and travel insurance. Kate's smile grew bigger as she continued. George Clark had worked for the Department of Motor Vehicles for 20 years. He knew exactly how to make simple processes take forever. Getting a temporary alien visitor permit required 3 separate appointments, spread over 2 weeks, at different Earth offices. She showed them a picture of alien soldiers standing in long lines at government offices, looking confused and frustrated. Soon Vextar's entire invasion force was busy with paperwork instead of preparing for war. His weapons officers were filling out forms about hazardous material storage. His navigation officers were completing forms about interstellar flight plan approval. His communications officers were working on forms about alien radio broadcasting licenses. Kate picked up the last paper from her original stack. After 4 months, Vextar realized he had a serious problem. He had filled out 436 different forms. He had spent over $2 million Earth dollars on fees, inspections, tests, and licenses. His ships were falling apart from sitting still for so long. She held up a letter with Vextar's signature at the bottom. But the worst part was this letter from our Department of Form Processing, managed by Nancy Wright. The letter told Vextar that his first form, XG2847, had expired while he was working on all the other forms. Earth law said that conquest applications were only valid for 90 days. The alien audience gasped. Nancy's letter politely explained, that Vextar would need to start over from the beginning with a fresh form XG2847. All of his other completed forms would also expire and need to be redone. Kate looked around the room at thousands of shocked alien faces. That, she said quietly, was when Commander Vextar realized that humans had not just given him paperwork to fill out. They had trapped him in a maze made of forms, and there was no way out. Kate Miller reached into her folder and pulled out a small device that looked like a phone. She pressed a button and a picture appeared in the air above it. The picture showed the entire galaxy with thousands of star systems connected by bright lines. While Commander Vextar was drowning in paperwork at Earth, she said, something much bigger was happening across the Carathian Empire. The bureaucratic infection was spreading. The picture in the air showed red warning lights appearing on different star systems throughout the Empire. Admiral Zeknoth was the Empire's second most powerful military leader. He commanded 1,000 warships that patrolled the galaxy, keeping conquered planets under control. But 6 months after Vextar got stuck at Earth, Admiral Zeknoth faced a strange new problem. Kate touched the device and the picture changed to show a fleet of warships stopped in space between two planets. Admiral Zeknoth received an urgent message from his home base. The message said that all military movements now required proper documentation before they could happen. This was a new rule that had been created to help Commander Vexatar with his Earth conquest paperwork. She touched the device again. Now the picture showed Admiral Zeknoth, a large blue alien with 6 arms, reading a long list of rules. The new rule said that before any warship could move from one star system to another, the ship's captain had to fill out Form S-8800 for interstellar military movement authorization. The form had to be approved by 3 different departments before the ship could fly. The aliens in the audience looked confused. This seemed like a very strange rule for a military empire. Admiral Zeknoth was angry about this new rule. He tried to ignore it and ordered his ships to continue their normal patrols. But then something unexpected happened. Kate's picture showed government officials on the Empire's home planet arguing with each other. The Carathian Empire's own bureaucrats had learned about Earth's paperwork systems from Commander Vextar's reports. They thought the human forms were a brilliant idea for keeping better control over everything. She touched her device and showed a picture of alien officials sitting at desks covered with papers, looking very busy and important. Regional Governor Crixtall of the Outer Rim Territories was the first to adopt Earth's methods. He announced that all requests from Admiral Zeknoth's fleet would now require proper forms to be filled out and submitted to his office for approval. The picture showed Governor Crixtall, a tall, thin alien with green skin, stamping papers with a big official stamp. Governor Crixtall created his own version of Earth forms. Form T-9900 was required for any military ship to enter his territory. Form U-1100 was needed to land on any planet in his region. Form V-2200 was required to buy fuel or supplies. Kate smiled as she continued the story. When Admiral Zeknoth's ships tried to patrol the Outer Rim, they were stopped by Governor Crixtall's space stations. The governor's officials politely explained that the warships could not proceed without the proper paperwork. The picture now showed mighty warships floating helplessly in space, while small official vessels delivered stacks of forms to them. Admiral Zeknoth was furious. He sent an angry message to the Carathian Emperor demanding that Governor Crixtall be punished. But the Emperor had his own problems. Kate touched her device, and the picture changed to show the Empire's home planet. The planet looked chaotic, with long lines of people waiting outside government buildings. Emperor Thakmor had been watching the reports from Earth with great interest. He was impressed by how much control the humans seemed to have over every small detail of their society using forms and paperwork. She showed a picture of Emperor Thakmor, a massive alien with dark purple skin and glowing red eyes, studying human government documents. The Emperor decided that the Carathian Empire needed better organization and control like the humans had. He created the Department of Imperial Efficiency and put his smartest advisors in charge of making the Empire run more smoothly. The picture showed alien officials creating new departments and writing new rules. But the Emperor's advisors had learned too well from studying Earth's system. They created so many new departments and rules that even the Emperor himself got confused about what was happening in his own empire. Kate's device showed a chart that looked like a spider web made of government departments. each connected to many others with complicated lines and arrows. The Department of Imperial Efficiency created the Sub-Department of Military Oversight, which created the Office of Fleet Movement Control, which created the Bureau of Warship Authorization, which created the Division of Space Travel Permits. The aliens in the audience were starting to look dizzy again from trying to follow all the connections. Each new department needed to justify its existence by creating important work to do, so they all started requiring different forms for the same activities. A single warship trying to move from one planet to another now needed approvals from 12 different offices. Kate showed a picture of a warship captain sitting at a tiny desk, surrounded by towering stacks of forms, looking completely overwhelmed. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Nancy Wright was watching all of this happen with great satisfaction. She had been put in charge of a new department called Interstellar Administrative Consulting Services. The picture showed Nancy, a middle-aged human woman with gray hair and thick glasses, sitting in an office with a sign that read, "Helping aliens help themselves through better paperwork." The Carathian Empire was so frustrated with their inefficient bureaucracy that they hired Nancy's department to teach them how to make better forms and procedures. They were paying Earth millions of dollars to learn how to make their own paperwork more complicated. Kate's smile grew bigger as she explained this part. Nancy sent teams of human experts to different parts of the Carathian Empire. These experts taught alien officials how to create forms that were harder to fill out, how to make rules that were more confusing, and how to build departments that required other departments to function. The picture showed human teachers standing in front of classrooms full of alien students, all taking notes about advanced bureaucracy techniques. Within 8 months, the Carathian Empire had completely changed. Instead of being an efficient military dictatorship, it had become a maze of competing government departments that spent most of their time arguing with each other about proper procedures. Kate showed a picture of the Empire's capital city. Instead of military buildings and weapons factories, the city was now filled with office buildings where aliens sat at desks filling out forms. Admiral Zeknoth's mighty fleet was scattered across the galaxy, with ships stuck at different space stations waiting for paperwork approvals. Some ships had been waiting for months just to get permission to refuel. The picture showed warships floating dead in space because they had run out of fuel, while waiting for Form Z5566 to be processed by the Department of Military Fuel Distribution Authorization. Governor Krikstal had become so successful with his paperwork system that other regional governors copied his methods. Soon, every territory in the empire had its own unique forms and requirements that conflicted with the forms from other territories. Kate showed a map of the empire where different colored areas represented different governors, each with their own separate paperwork requirements. A merchant ship trying to deliver supplies across the empire now needed over 200 different permits and licenses. Many businesses gave up and stopped trying to trade between different regions. The picture showed empty spaceports and abandoned trading posts throughout the empire. But the final blow came when Emperor Thakmor tried to give a direct order to Admiral Zeknoth to attack a rebellious planet in the inner systems. Kate's device showed the Emperor dictating a message to his secretary, who was typing on a computer. The Emperor's message was sent to the Department of Imperial Communications, which forwarded it to the Office of Military Correspondence, which sent it to the Bureau of Admiral Notifications, which passed it to the Division of Fleet Command. Messages. The picture showed the Emperor's simple order being passed from office to office, with each office adding more forms and requirements. By the time Admiral Zeknoth received the Emperor's order, it had been transformed into a request for him to fill out Form AA99999 for permission to consider possible military action, along with supporting documentation from 17 different departments. Kate held up a copy of the form. It was 12 pages long and required the Admiral to explain in detail why attacking the rebellious planet would be good for imperial efficiency and bureaucratic coordination. Admiral Zeknoth realized that it would take him 6 months to fill out all the required forms. By then, the rebellious planet would probably have filled out their own forms to officially leave the Empire through proper legal channels. The alien audience sat in stunned silence as they understood what had happened. The mighty Carathian Empire, Kate said quietly, had defeated itself with paperwork. They had become so obsessed with proper procedures and bureaucratic control that they forgot how to actually control anything. She put her device away and looked around the room, and that was when Earth made its final move. Kate Miller reached into her folder one last time and pulled out a single golden paper. The paper sparkled under the lights of the great chamber. Every alien in the room leaned forward to see what was written on it. "This," she said, holding up, "the golden paper, is the document that ended the Carathian Empire forever. It is called Form Z001, Application for Hostile Corporate Takeover of Galactic Empire." The aliens gasped. Many of them had never heard of such a thing. While the Carathian Empire was busy destroying itself with paperwork, Earth's smartest legal minds were working on the greatest bureaucratic masterpiece in galactic history. Paul Thompson, our director of reverse acquisition, spent 8 months creating this form. Kate showed them a picture of Paul Thompson, a thin man with a big smile, sitting at a desk covered with law books and legal documents. Paul had worked as a corporate lawyer for 30 years before joining the government. He knew everything about hostile takeovers, which is when one company legally steals another company by using clever paperwork and legal tricks. She held up a thick book labeled Galactic Corporate Law. Paul discovered something very interesting while studying the laws that governed the galaxy. The same legal rules that allowed the Carathian Empire to conquer planets also allowed other organizations to acquire empires through proper legal procedures. The aliens looked worried. They were starting to understand where this was going. Paul's plan was brilliant but simple, Kate continued. While Commander Vexitar and the Empire were busy trying to conquer Earth legally, Earth would legally conquer the Empire instead. She opened the golden form and began reading from it. Form ZZ001 was filed with the Galactic Corporate Registry exactly 1 year after Commander Vexitar first arrived at Earth. The form stated that Earth's government wanted to acquire all assets, territories, and holdings of the Carathian Empire through legal purchase. A robot alien made confused beeping sounds. But Earth had no money to buy an empire. Kate smiled her biggest smile yet. That is the most beautiful part of Paul's plan. According to galactic law, when an organization fails to complete a legal transaction within the specified time frame, the other party in the transaction can claim compensation for damages and lost time. She pulled out a calculator and showed it to the aliens. Commander Vexitar had signed an agreement to conquer Earth within 6 months when he accepted our first form. The agreement included penalty clauses for delays, just like any other business contract. Earth's legal team calculated the total penalties and damages that the Empire owed us. Kate pressed buttons on the calculator. The number that appeared was so big it filled the entire screen. The Carathian Empire owed Earth 47,300,000,000 galactic credits in penalty fees for failing to complete their conquest on time. This was exactly equal to the total value of the Empire's assets according to their own financial records. The alien audience sat in shocked silence, but Paul Thompson was not finished yet. He had also discovered that Emperor Thakmor had made a critical legal mistake when he created all those new bureaucratic departments. Kate showed them a copy of the Emperor's official decree creating the Department of Imperial Efficiency. When Emperor Thakmor signed this decree, he accidentally changed the Empire's legal status from a military dictatorship to a publicly traded corporation. This happened because he used the wrong legal language when describing how the new departments would be organized and funded. She pointed to specific words in the decree that were highlighted in red. These words right here transformed the Carathian Empire into a business corporation instead of a government. Under galactic corporate law, this meant that the Empire could be bought and sold just like any other company. The aliens began making nervous sounds. Some of them were from empires too. Earth's Department of Hostile Acquisitions, managed by Steve Adams, had been secretly buying small amounts of Carathian Empire stock for months. Every time the Empire created a new bureaucratic department, they issued stock certificates to fund the department's operations. Kate showed them a stack of official-looking certificates with the Empire's seal on them. Steve Adams had worked on Wall Street for 20 years before joining the government. He knew exactly how to buy company stock in small amounts without anyone noticing. By the time Emperor Thakmor realized what was happening, Earth owned 49% of his own empire. She pulled out a photograph of Steve Adams shaking hands with alien stockbrokers on different planets throughout the galaxy. But the final stroke of genius came from our legal expert, Janet Martinez. Janet had discovered that Commander Vextar's original conquest attempt had created a binding legal contract between Earth and the Carathian Empire. Kate held up Commander Vextar's signed copy of Form XG-2E847 with all its amendments and supporting documents. When Vextar signed this form and all the related paperwork, he legally agreed that Earth's government had authority to approve or reject the Empire's conquest application. This gave Earth legal standing to make counterclaims against the Empire. She showed them a section of the form written in very small print at the bottom. Paragraph 47, subsection C, Clause 15 states that if the applicant fails to complete the conquest process within the agreed time frame, all rights and properties of the applicant organization transfer to the processing authority as compensation. The aliens were beginning to understand the full scope of what had happened. In simple terms, Kate explained, when the Carathian Empire failed to conquer Earth on schedule, they legally gave Earth the right to take over their entire empire as payment for wasted time and processing costs. She pulled out an official document with many signatures and seals on it. 6 months ago, Earth's legal team presented Emperor Thakmor with Form Z-02, Notice of Successful Hostile Takeover. The form politely informed him that Earth now owned the Carathian Empire and all its territories. Kate showed them a picture of Emperor Thakmor reading the notice. The mighty emperor looked confused and defeated. Emperor Thakmor tried to reject Earth's takeover claim. He hired the best lawyers in the galaxy to fight against us in Galactic Court. But every legal argument he made was defeated by his own signed paperwork. She held up a thick folder labeled Carathian Empire versus Earth Legal Proceedings. The court case lasted 3 months. Earth's lawyers, led by Susan Lee, presented over 12,000 pieces of evidence. Every single piece of evidence was a form, document, or legal agreement that Emperor Thakmor or his officials had signed. Kate opened the folder and papers spilled out onto the table. The Galactic Court ruled unanimously in Earth's favor. Chief Justice Quantum declared that the Carathian Empire had legally transferred ownership of itself to Earth through proper bureaucratic procedures. She showed them a picture of the court ruling being announced. Alien judges were banging their gavels while Emperor Thakmor hung his head in defeat. Today, former Emperor Thakmor works as a middle manager in Earth's Department of Former Galactic Empires. His job is filing daily reports about the status of planets that used to belong to him. Kate pulled out a photograph showing Thakmor sitting at a small desk in a human office building, filling out forms under the supervision of his human boss, a woman named Susan Lee. Commander Vextar now manages Earth's interstellar postal service. His mighty warships deliver mail and packages to planets throughout the galaxy. He has to fill out shipping forms for every delivery. The picture showed Vextar in a postal uniform, carefully placing packages into the cargo hold of his former battleship. Admiral Zeknoth runs Earth's Department of Space Traffic Control. His job is making sure all the spaceships in the galaxy have proper permits and follow traffic laws. Kate showed them Admiral Zeknoth sitting in a control tower, watching screens full of spacecraft and stamping flight authorization forms. The entire Carathian military now works for Earth's government. They follow human managers and fill out paperwork to get permission for everything they do. They have become the most efficient bureaucratic workforce in galactic history. She held up a chart showing productivity numbers. The former empire's efficiency had increased by 300% under human management. But here's the most important part, Kate said, looking directly at Chancellor Zex and the other council members. Earth did not destroy the Carathian Empire or hurt anyone. We simply out-bureaucratized them. We beat them at their own game using nothing but forms, procedures, and proper legal documentation. Kate closed her folder and stood up straight. Earth has now established the Bureau of Intergalactic Administrative Expansion. Our mission is to help other governments throughout the galaxy improve their efficiency through better paperwork systems. She pulled out a stack of forms and placed them on the table in front of her. Any planet or organization that wants our help can simply fill out Form AA0001, Application for Administrative Assistance. The form is only 3 pages long and very easy to understand. Chancellor Zex and the other council members looked at the forms with terror in their eyes. Of course, Kate added with a sweet smile. Participating in our program is completely voluntary. Earth believes in freedom and democracy for all beings in the galaxy. She picked up one of the forms and held it toward the council.